Chandler Unified School District. Today it's one of the largest and most successful school districts in Arizona. But 100 years ago, the infant school system was small and barely equipped to handle even a handful of students. Fortunately, early settlers to Chandler valued education, and they went to work to build a school system using far more than just their money. Townspeople gave their time and resources, ensuring that the school system would have high educational standards, reflect the values of the community, and provide a safe learning environment. They established the underlying philosophy of the schools: do what's best for children. The high quality of the school system helped bring crowds of new people into the fledgling town. District expansion required construction of new school facilities. In naming each of the new schools, leadership created landmarks of local history, denoting locations or honoring community contributors and cultural noteworthies. Presented here are the stories behind Chandler's school namesakes. At the time of Chandler's founding in late 1911, children attended school in a cook shack. But town officials made public education a high priority and included a proper school building in the plan for the new town. Naming the building the Chandler Grammar School after town founder Dr. A.J. Chandler, they built and opened it in 1912. Because town planners anticipated slow but regular growth in the area, they designed the school so that classrooms could be added to meet the needs of future enrollment. But growth proved to be anything but slow. Rapid growth forced the school board to build grammar school additions much sooner than expected, and all pre-planned expansions were completed in just 2 years. The board also erected temporary units and used alternative spaces to manage the ever-growing student population. The beauty in the design of the grammar school became a symbol of the town's dedication to education, and the school was widely promoted to entice new settlers to the area. In 1917, the Chandler School Board entered into its first corporate partnership to improve educational opportunities in the community. That year, the Southwest Cotton Company asked the board to open a school in the nearby farming community of Goodyear. At the time, the school district had no plan or budget for such a facility, so the two parties began a year of negotiations, ultimately reaching an agreement in which the company would build a one-room schoolhouse and the school board would operate it. The Goodyear School officially opened in the fall of 1918. It was the first of 4 school buildings built by the partnership on the company's property. In the 1930s, the Goodyear Company ceased operations and left the area, which was renamed Ocotillo. The school remained in operation to serve area farmers. It was used for Hispanic students in the 1930s and African American students in the 40s. In 1954, the school board ended segregation in all Chandler schools, and the Goodyear location was closed. After decades of limited use and upkeep, the buildings were finally demolished in 2005. People that attended the Goodyear School have fond memories of the teachers and friends that they met while there. The Chandler Historical Museum houses an exhibit for others to share in the Goodyear School's memory. In the summer of 1920, 3 years of negotiations resulted in the consolidation of the Chandler and Tyler elementary school districts. Merging the districts created Chandler Unified's current 80-square-mile area and provided both groups with better opportunities. At the time, the Tyler district was operating a small one-room schoolhouse southeast of Chandler. The Tyler School was closed in the mid-1920s due to excessive operating and maintenance costs. Afterward, the district hired a contractor to bus Tyler students to school in Chandler, and many former Tyler students may still remember the canvas-sided trucks used for the route. The dream of many for nearly a decade, Chandler High School became a reality in 1922 after legal battles and funding challenges. As the only high school in town for 76 years, it quickly became the heart of the community, fulfilling the role of cultural center as well as school. Periodic additions, expansions, and remodels kept the school alive, while accommodating the increasing demands of a modern world and a growing student population. Loved by many for rich traditions and fond memories, CHS serves as a memorial to students and teachers who built its reputation for excellence in education. The school's iconic status and structure have come to symbolize the values of district pioneers, earning it a listing in the National Register of Historic Places in 2007. In 1929, Chandler opened the Wynn School in response to a petition from influential Hispanic citizens to locate a school in their area. Known as the Spanish School just south of town, administrators saw Wynn as an opportunity to teach English to Spanish-speaking elementary students, preparing them for integration into the Chandler Grammar School. The district operated the school until 1969, then sold the building to the city in 1973. Located at 85 East Saragossa Street, the building remains in use today as the home of the Salvation Army. At about the time the Wynn School opened, the world changed. After 20 years of economic depression and global war, district leadership found themselves facing a new challenge: the arrival of the baby boomers. After the Second World War, many former servicemen settled in Chandler to raise families. To ease the pains of post-war baby boom enrollment, a new school structure was built adjacent to the Chandler Grammar School in 1949. This added 10 primary classrooms, a library, and a 500-seat auditorium. While commonly known for years as the Cleveland School, the campus, consisting of old and new buildings, was officially given that name in 1953, following a school board plan designating schools by street location. The district closed the Cleveland School in 1968 and added the property to the Chandler High School campus. Part of the Cleveland School is still in use today. It houses the Chandler High Fine Arts programs, including visual arts, choir, and band. The original grammar school buildings were demolished over the years to make room for new Chandler High facilities. The last of these was torn down in 1995. On September 12, 1949, 20 students attended the first full day of school in a converted Army barracks in the area known as Chandler Heights. It was a joyous occasion because residents fought hard for years to have a school built in their area. The Chandler Heights School eased overcrowding on school buses bound for town, and more importantly, kept small children from having to make the long commute. The school quickly became a community center with a variety of celebrated traditions. Sadly, the original building burned to the ground in 1976. The school district quickly replaced it with a one-room school building, which remained in operation until 1983. That year, Weinberg Elementary, a larger, modern facility, opened and began serving the Chandler Heights area. Chandler Junior High was built in 1953 to relieve overcrowding at Chandler High and the Cleveland School. Future Superintendent Kenneth Knox served as the first principal, and the school's 700-member student body was made up of 5th through 8th graders. In 1988, after 35 years of normal operation, the district closed the school after opening Anderson Junior High just a few miles to the northwest. Chandler Unified has continued to use the complex over the years in various capacities. The facility welcomed Sandborn Elementary and Bogle Junior High students while those schools were being built. As the Chandler High School North Campus, it eased the high school's crowding problems in the late 1990s, while the district scrambled to open Hamilton High. After the new high school opened, the facility became Pathways Learning Center. It provided space for district daycare programs, an alternative school, teacher training classrooms, and technology support services. In 2009, the facility was remade once again into a junior high, offering a traditional school model to mid-level students. For 62 years, the district named its schools based on geographic and street locations. The Chandler Grammar School, Goodyear, Tyler, and Wynn schools were all named for their areas. The next 4 schools were named for their street locations. Hartford opened in 1957, Denver in 1960, Galveston in 62, and Erie in 70. A new and treasured tradition was born in 1974. That year, the school board chose to recognize noteworthy people of Chandler, injecting local history into the naming process. With the next school, they honored the pioneering Knox family. Alex and Martha Knox immigrated to Arizona from Canada, settling in Chandler in 1917. With their 3 sons and daughter, they began farming 80 acres at what is now Knox Road and Arizona Avenue. Sadly, just 4 years later, Alex died of influenza, leaving Martha to assume the responsibilities as head of the family. In 1929, she expanded the farm by 160 acres and moved into a house on the new property. As integral parts of the community, the Knoxes continued to farm around the city. Family members also operated the Chandler, Arizona newspaper as well as the Mesa Tribune and were active members in the Methodist Church. The youngest, Kenny Knox, worked his way up to Chandler School's superintendent. Martha lived on the farm until her death in 1963. In 1973, Chandler Schools acquired land adjacent to Knox farmland and built Knox Elementary on that property the following year. Born in 1879, Angus Willis grew up on a farm near Snowflake, Arizona. At age 20, he married Monomus Lovina Ballard and worked raising cattle and farming. In 1919, enticed by the cotton boom in the Salt River region, Willis moved his family to Chandler. He purchased 160 acres and seeded it with cotton, only to lose in the market due to the cotton crash of 1920. Angus regrouped and began growing alfalfa and raising sheep. When the Depression hit in 1929, he fell into financial ruin once again. He toiled to regain his standard of living and ultimately rebuilt his fortunes. Angus and his wife celebrated 62 years of marriage before he died in 1961. Angus Willis was known as a good-natured man and a great conversationalist. The Chandler Schools Governing Board named its new junior high for Willis's longtime presence in the community and tenacious work ethic. George Fry was a merchant and rancher who came to Chandler in 1913 from Safford, Arizona. He and wife Etta supported themselves on the 5-acre plot where they lived. Along with their 3 daughters, they became active members in the Chandler community. Politics, church, and youth welfare were high among the Fry's charitable causes. Fry was elected to a term on the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors in 1934. He served until 1942, and then was elected again in 1948 for an additional 2-year term. Etta was active in politics too, supporting the Chandler Democratic Women and the American Legion Women's Auxiliary. She also attended the Democratic National Convention as a delegate in 1960 and 64. Adolf Weinberg was born in Romania in 1901. He grew up on his parents' dairy farm, but fled the country with family to escape the tides of World War I. The Weinbergs settled in Imperial Valley, California, where they established a successful dairy farm. Adolf married and with wife Etta had 2 sons, Denny and Bob. After World War II, the housing boom began to encroach upon the family farm, persuading the Weinbergs to move to Arizona at the suggestion of their friend Eddie Basha Jr. The Weinbergs bought up several properties throughout the state, including 160 acres southeast of Chandler. Adolf and Etta Weinberg were highly charitable people. They gave to schools and churches and helped fund city playgrounds and 4-H clubs. This generous nature was passed along to their son Denny, who donated the land on which Weinberg Elementary was built. Born in 1880, 18-year-old John Anderson immigrated from Denmark to make his fortune as both a farmer and businessman. He built considerable wealth through various endeavors during Chandler's early years, including co-founding one of the first banks in town. He served on the Chandler School Board from 1917 through 1928. Anderson was instrumental in many accomplishments during his time on the board. Most notable were the expansion of the district to its present-day size of 80 square miles and the building of Chandler High School. Planning for growth in the northwest portion of the city, the district purchased land from the John Anderson family in 1973. On this land, the school board voted to build an elementary school in 1984 and added a junior high to the property in 1988. Marshall Humphrey was born in Phoenix in 1929. In 1951, he moved to Chandler to take over operations on his deceased uncle's 1,000-acre farm. Through his involvement with the Arizona Farm Bureau, Marty got started in politics. He ran for the Arizona House of Representatives in 1955 and 57, and finally won a seat in 1959. After 3 terms in the House, he was elected to the Senate in 1966 and served as Senate President. He retired from elected office in '68 to spend more time with his family. For 34 years, Marty and his wife Carolyn were deeply committed to the Chandler community. They were involved in the Boy and Girl Scouts, the Chandler Hospital, St. Matthew's Church, the Arizona Power Authority, and Chandler Schools. In In 1923, William Howard Shamway and his wife Lucy moved to Chandler, attracted by its booming cotton industry. They acquired 120 acres of land near present-day Ray and McQueen roads and began to farm. In the 1930s, their son Jesse took over. He was a clever deal maker who acquired a lot of land from those burning to sell. He increased holdings to 550 acres, while also establishing dairy production, with Shamrock Farms as a major client. As Chandler grew and encroached upon the family farm, Jesse sold much of the Shamway land to the city and other developers between 1960 and 1990. In 1986, Jesse and his family donated about 12 acres of land for an elementary school, which sits on the former farm. Originally named the Denver School when built in 1960, it served local children for more than 25 years. When the school's student achievement levels began to drop, Superintendent Ted Perry determined that the Denver School needed serious work. He assigned the task to Assistant Superintendent Howard Conley, who had faced similar challenges at Chandler High. Conley consulted with friend and administrator Dale Hancock. In a brainstorming session, the two identified the need for new leadership, staff reassignments, and most importantly, curriculum changes. After listening to his input, Dr. Conley recommended that the board hire Hancock to put the Denver School back on a path towards success. Hancock accepted the challenge and, as part of his efforts, recommended renaming the school as part of a new identity. During an assembly in 1987, the students held a funeral for the Denver School and unveiled San Marcos Elementary. The school has been successful ever since. Clifford Goodman was born in Mesa, Arizona in 1921. He graduated valedictorian from Mesa High in 1939 and married Earlene Ellsworth the following year. They started a family which eventually grew to include 8 children. Clifford earned his medical doctorate from George Washington University and then moved to Chandler to begin his practice. As a general physician, he built a rapport with community members, treating their colds and delivering quite a few of their children. During his medical career, he worked hard to build the community hospital in Chandler and eventually served as chief of staff. Through his volunteer work with the schools and their administrations, Goodman earned the confidence of many who encouraged him to run for the school board. He was elected in 1957 and served until his death in 1962. With her father being a professor at the University of Arizona, Anna Marie Huffaker learned the value of education at an early age. She graduated from the University of Oregon and was hired by the Army Signal Corps to crack codes during World War II. Anna Marie married Peyton Jacobson during the war, and both continued to serve their country, Peyton in the Army Air Corps. After the war, the couple spent 20 years in Phoenix before moving to Chandler in 1967. They had 2 children, both of whom graduated from Chandler High. Anna Marie began her involvement with Chandler schools as a member of the Chandler High PTO. She was appointed to a vacant position on the Chandler School Board in 1974 and was elected to her own term a year later. During 13 years of board service, Anna Marie established herself as a well-informed and assertive board member, earning her a reputation as a tough cookie. She put this character to work advocating for improving the student dropout rate, academic standards, arts education, and gifted programs. She passed away in December 1988, just shy of the end of her 3rd term. Jackson Bogle was born into a successful farming family in New Mexico in 1921. He met Barbara Kane while attending Iowa State University, and they married. In 1946, after military service in World War II, Jackson moved to Chandler with Barbara and their 18-month-old son to manage his family's alfalfa mill. He expanded the business, creating Bogle Farms and increasing land holdings throughout the area. At home in Chandler, Jackson and Barbara raised 5 children and became actively involved in the community. Together, they supported the Chandler Historical Society and the Center for the Arts. Barbara was active in the Chandler Service Club, the Cleveland School PTO, and served as a homeroom volunteer in her kids' classrooms. She also worked with a philanthropic educational organization for women, which supported educational pursuits for women through grants and loans. Jackson participated in the Chandler Rotary Club, worked with Boy Scouts, and served on the supervisory board of the Arizona Boys Ranch. He also served on the Chandler Schools Governing Board for 10 years, from 1960 through 1969. The Sandborns were a dairy farming family that migrated west from Maine in the late 1800s. They first settled in San Bernardino, California, and then backtracked to Mesa, Arizona. Enticed by new land developments, patriarch Clarence Burton Sandborn moved his family to Chandler. He set up a dairy and began farming cotton and alfalfa near modern-day Cooper and Ray Roads. The Sandborn's son, Prior Forrest Sandborn, took over the farm and later sold land to the district for a new school. However, the district chose to trade the land with the city for a preferred location just slightly to the west. The elementary school built on this location was named for the Sandborns for their role as a founding family in the city. In the mid-1970s, the district sought new direction to resolve many challenges plaguing Chandler High School. Racial tensions divided the student body. Vandalism and delinquency disrupted day-to-day activities and aroused community concerns. Athletics took precedence over academics, while poor staff morale resulted in poor instruction. At the end of a long search for a new Chandler High principal, Howard Conley walked in and changed the minds of board members who had already decided on another candidate. In the fall of 1976, Conley went to work to change the attitudes of students and staff at Chandler High. He also recognized the importance of community support and built bonds with parents and service organizations to help encourage the school's new direction. For his proven leadership, Dr. Conley was promoted to assistant superintendent in 1985, and in 1991, he succeeded Dr. Ted Perry as superintendent. Just prior to his own retirement in 1996, the governing board surprised Dr. Conley by naming its 14th elementary school in his honor. The football hero and the prom queen. This Chandler fairy tale couple made several impressions on the town in the 1950s. Robert Bobby Tarwater was a Chandler High football star. As a member of the legendary 1949 championship team, he became the second football player in the history of Chandler High to make All-State. He held many sports records and served as student body president. Jacqueline Donnell Cloud was the outspoken student body secretary with a great singing voice and natural beauty. These high school sweethearts married in 1952 and together raised 8 children. Donnell found the time to serve as PTO president and later served 8 years on the school board. For more than 40 years, the Tarwaters dedicated themselves to the Chandler community through civic and church organizations, as well as their children's schools. Rudy G. Balona spent 3 decades dedicating himself to the well-being of students. He had an extraordinary talent for teaching and won over all he knew with his caring heart. He taught in Chandler schools for 31 years, beginning at the Wynn School in 1953. After teaching for a few years there, he moved over to the newly built Hartford Elementary, where he remained for 28 years until he retired in 1984. Rudy was known to volunteer for any task that would help kids, and he consistently invested time outside of normal school hours. He provided free tutoring in his own home, even during his retirement. Rudy's generosity even extended beyond the district and Hartford students. As a sports fan, he took time to tutor many Chandler High and ASU athletes. Rudy's love of children allowed him to recognize the unique potential within each child. In 1998, the community recognized its affection for him with the first Chandler school named after a teacher, Rudy Balona Elementary. In 1917, the Hamiltons moved into Arizona from Texas. Twin boys Ray and Roy helped level land for the cotton fields of the Southwest Cotton Company. It wasn't long before they were running the large operation. In 1926, the twins' older brother John, who had been away fighting in World War I, came with his wife Lillian to work with Ray and Roy on the farm. In 1936, the brothers bought land located at current-day Arizona Avenue and Ocotillo Road. Here, they built and operated a grocery store, gas station, and tavern. Hamilton's Corner became a popular last stop on the road to Tucson. John and Lillian's son Jim took over the family farm in later years and maintained it with his wife Ruth. Even today, Hamilton descendants continue to grow up in Chandler with their family name memorialized by Hamilton High School, which stands on the former Hamilton property. In 1919, Najib Basha, a first-generation Lebanese-American retailer, moved his family to Chandler after a fire burned down their previous store in Sonora, Arizona. He set up shop on Boston Street and built a new home on Washington Street for his wife Najibi and their 6 girls and 2 boys. Najib died of diabetes in 1932, leaving his wife and children to manage the family business. The Basha boys, in particular, took to the business, with Ike keeping books and Eddie Sr. helping with merchandising and sales. About that time, Goodyear's cotton industry was in full swing, and employees needed a local grocery store. Looking to expand the business, Ike and Eddie Sr. opened a store in Goodyear. The Basha's corporation continued to grow and diversify over the years. Through it all, the Basha family has maintained a philosophy of community service, which has translated into their corporate culture. For more than 40 years, Jane D. Hull served public education in Arizona as a teacher, legislator, Secretary of State, and governor. Among her many important contributions was involvement in implementing a plan that equalized funding per student across all Arizona school districts. Also during her tenure as governor, the Arizona Supreme Court ruled that the state must establish a fair and universal method to fund school construction. Eventually, Governor Hull convinced lawmakers to support a program known as Students First. It established a school facilities board to manage new school construction. For a lifetime of contributions to public education, the Chandler School Board named its 18th elementary school in honor of the former governor. CTA Liberty was the first of Chandler's traditional schools, continuing the district's ongoing efforts to offer competitive educational choices. The CTA concept appealed to many parents who wanted a more structured classroom environment for their children. The popularity of the Liberty campus spawned the construction of two more traditional schools, Freedom in 2005 and Independence in 2006. That same year, Goodman Elementary was revised to follow the CTA instructional methods. This move revitalized enrollment numbers in an aging neighborhood and made the model convenient to parents in the northern part of the district. In selecting names for the new traditional schools, the district wanted titles that would distinguish campuses but unify the model. Influenced by the patriotic spirit of post-9/11 America, the governing board named the schools after inspirational values upon which the nation was founded. The Chandler School Board's tradition of honoring influential people with school names presented a challenge when it came to its first K-8 school. The board felt that the uniqueness of the campus model deserved an equally unique name. Ultimately, they chose to recognize the area's original settlers, the Native Americans who lived at the base of the Santan Mountains. They developed the first irrigation system in the desert, which made the dry wasteland flourish, a discovery that Dr. Chandler would use to the city's advantage many years later. As recently as the early 1900s, the Santan tribes traded supplies and materials in town. They were a common presence in early Chandler, enhancing the ethnic diversity and cultural richness of the community. Eddie Basha Jr., grandson of Chandler pioneers Najib and Najibi Basha, graduated from Chandler High in 1955. He attended Stanford University with aspirations of teaching history. After his uncle Ike passed away, Eddie assumed a greater role in his family's grocery business. Under his leadership, the business grew into one of Arizona's most successful corporations. Still, his passion for education remained, and he worked to improve public schools in Arizona. Eddie started locally on the Chandler School Board from 1968 to 1980. He went on to hold seats on the State Board of Education and on the Arizona Board of Regents. Eddie assumed a lifelong mission to help relieve the challenges facing underprivileged students and their families. His foresight and his checkbook jump-started programs like the San Marcos Family Resource Center. Now called the Chandler Care Center, it provides food, medical care, clothing, and other resources to families in need. A Chandler educator, Dale Hancock built his reputation on revolutionary ideas, creative strategies, and unyielding tenacity. Graduating from Eastern Arizona University and Northern Arizona University with degrees in education and physical education, he moved to Chandler in 1964 to fill the position of elementary PE director. Over the next 4 years, he fulfilled the roles of teacher, driver's ed instructor, and assistant varsity coach. His hard work paid off in 1976 when he was chosen to open Willis Junior High as principal. There he spearheaded numerous innovative programs, including the first Apple Computer Lab in an Arizona public school and the first junior high robotics instruction in the country. In 1987, Superintendent Ted Perry asked him to restructure the ailing Denver school. Dale transformed it into San Marcos Elementary, earning national and state recognition for turnaround in scholastic achievement. Finally, in 1991, he became Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Education. In this position, he played a pivotal role in developing Hamilton High School, for which the school gym was named in his honor. Though officially retiring in 1997, Hancock continued to serve in various administrative capacities when needed. For those who worked with him, Dale Hancock will always be remembered for his dry wit, his willingness to take on challenges, and his fresh perspectives. In 1910, 20-year-old Apolinar Navarete came to Chandler after escaping the horrors of the Mexican Revolution. Known as Pete, he worked construction around town, building Dr. Chandler's many projects, including the San Marcos Hotel. He eventually settled in the position of greenskeeper at the San Marcos and worked there for 30 years until retirement. Through 3 marriages, Pete raised 13 children who went on to serve as teachers, a school nurse, a fireman, and Chandler mayor. Pete's son, Raul Navarete, was an ambitious youth. He co-captained the high school football team, leading to consecutive conference titles. He joined the National Guard and earned the rank of captain. Raul also proved to be civic-minded as well as patriotic, offering English lessons and starting a U.S. citizenship class. Raul was elected to the city council in 1966. He became Chandler's first Hispanic mayor in 1972 and was re-elected in 1974. The Navarete family reflects the experiences of many immigrant families whose presence has built the city and collective culture of Chandler. Willie and Koy Payne were both originally from Texas. Their families came to the Chandler area for work in the cotton fields around Goodyear during its heyday. Because of racial segregation at the time, Koy was sent to George Washington Carver High School in Phoenix. After graduating, he was drafted for service in the Korean War. When he returned, he attended ASU on the GI Bill, majoring in education. Here, Koy renewed his childhood acquaintance with Willie Woods. They started dating and eventually married. Willie graduated in 1955 with her degree in accounting, and Koy in 1958 with his education degree. The couple raised 6 kids while pursuing their careers. Koy started teaching in Chandler at the Wynn School. He went on to teach at Denver Elementary and Chandler Junior High. In 1974, he became assistant principal at the junior high, where he remained for 15 years until his retirement in 1989. For his 31-year career at Chandler Schools, Koy was honored with the naming of Payne Gymnasium on the Chandler High School campus. Willie went back to school after 17 years of accounting work and earned a master's degree in education. In 1973, she began teaching 3rd grade at the Denver School and played an important role in its transition to San Marcos Elementary in 1987. Willie retired from Chandler Schools in 1992 and went on to work with various civic organizations. With Koy, she helped establish the South Chandler Self-Help Foundation, which assists low-income families to become more self-reliant. Koy had become active in local politics before retiring from Chandler Schools, and he continued to pursue his political interests after leaving. He started by volunteering for various city boards and commissions. This led to his eventual election to the Chandler City Council in 1978. In 1990, Koy became Arizona's first African-American mayor and served for 2 terms. For more than 40 years, the Paynes played a pivotal role in raising ethnic awareness and promoting equality in the city of Chandler through their dedication, leadership, volunteerism, and public service. Audrey and Bob Ryan were prominent members of the community for decades. A Chandler native, Audrey Stahl was born on her family's homestead in 1927. While in school, she was busy with sports, clubs, and cheerleading, but still found time to collect goods and raise money for the war effort. In 1945, she graduated from Chandler High and 3 years later completed the cadet nursing program at St. Mary's Nursing School. She worked as a registered nurse in Chandler for many years. In the late 1940s, Audrey met Bob Ryan. They married in 1949 and raised 4 boys who became business leaders. Bob Ryan was a farmer. With partner Dwayne Dobson, the two managed several farm operations in the area. Bob was active with many service organizations, but was most passionate about Rotary Club and Boy Scouts. Over the years, Audrey continued her commitment to Chandler. She was active in the Chandler Service Club for many years. A passion for books and reading inspired her to rally the city to build a public library. Audrey also organized tuberculosis testing as well as a dental clinic and eye testing in the schools. In 2006, community members of Hartford Elementary petitioned the district to rename the school in honor of Sylvia Encianas. As a longtime member of Hartford's close-knit staff, she was known as a crusader for the disadvantaged families of Hartford students. Even as a girl growing up in Tucson, Sylvia was caring for people in need. She and some friends finagled their way onto a local radio station, and each Saturday would use the airwaves to solicit donations of food and medical supplies. As a parent, Sylvia first became involved with her children's school when the principal asked her to help out. She volunteered for 3 years before being offered a staff position. Sylvia worked wherever she was needed at Hartford for the next 26 years. But taking care of those in need was Sylvia's personal mission. Perhaps her most notable legacy is the Friends in Need organization, which continues to help Hartford Encianas families during hard times. Born in Tempe, Arizona in 1931, Ira Fulton proved to be an ambitious youth. By age 11, he was the #1 paperboy in the state for the Arizona Republic. Ira continued to work hard through high school and college. After ASU, he began a business career spanning more than half a century, with his most lucrative venture being Fulton Homes. Ira's generosity, backed by financial success, permitted him to establish the Fulton Foundation, which helps schools and universities create opportunities for young people. A self-proclaimed sucker for kids, Ira's contributions to education in Chandler include the Fulton Homes Learning Center at the Santan K-8 campus, and a donation of land for his namesake elementary school within the Fulton Ranch community. The Riggs family legacy in Chandler dates back to 1912, when Benjamin and Myrtle Riggs founded their family farm at Chandler Heights and Gilbert Roads. They raised 6 children who were active participants in Chandler schools. They all graduated from Chandler High and remained involved and committed townfolk. Eldest son Lyle made a name for himself playing football at CHS. Here he met his high school sweetheart, Willetta Nelson, whom he later married. Together, they maintained the family farm and spent decades in service of the community. Lyle served on various boards, including Chandler High FFA, Boy Scouts, and event committees for rodeos and parades. Willetta held her own as president of the 4-H Club, which helped young men and women develop skills for farming and homemaking. With more than 35 Riggs children attending Chandler schools over the years, the family has become a presence in the district. Dr. Ted Perry was a visionary who streamlined district operations and laid the groundwork to prepare it for future challenges. He began his career with Chandler Schools as a science teacher in 1957 and worked his way to assistant superintendent under Kenneth Knox in 1970. When Knox left office in 1976, Ted was promoted and began to make changes. He standardized curriculum across the district and pushed for superior student achievement. Ted embraced technology, encouraging its integration both in the classroom and among staff. During the 16 years of his administration, the Chandler Unified School District experienced the beginnings of its hypergrowth period. Ted worked aggressively with the school board, seeking land and funding for new schools. When he retired in 1991, the school board chose to name the district office after him. But Ted took greater pride in Perry High School, as it provides him an everlasting connection to CUSD students. A lifelong supporter of education, Charlotte Patterson taught high school English for 32 years, briefly in Minnesota, but mostly in Long Island, New York. Upon retirement in 1990, Charlotte moved to Arizona. She continued to involve herself in education and was elected to the CUSD Governing Board in 1992. For the next 16 years, Charlotte served the district during its most active growth period. She mentored board members and taught art in Chandler classrooms. She co-founded the New Adventures in Learning for Seniors program in Sun Lakes and hosted the parent informational television program Portraits in Education. Charlotte also worked with the Arizona School Boards Association, Arizona Interscholastic Association, and the Arizona Academic Decathlon. Charlotte was the longest tenured board member in district history. For these numerous contributions and an undaunted, positive spirit, her fellow board members made several attempts to honor her with a school naming. She finally relented in the spring of 2008 on behalf of herself and her family. Haley Knutson was a student of both Humphrey and Navarete elementaries. The 9-year-old caught the attention of the community and the state through her courageous battle with leukemia, diagnosed just before her 2nd birthday. Haley's inherent bravery and optimism in the midst of her illness inspired those around her to rally in support. They created the Hope for Haley campaign, which raised more than $200,000 for her family. Though Haley lost her fight with leukemia in 2005, the district partnered with the Chandler Education Foundation and created the Student Crisis Fund in her memory. Haley Elementary was dedicated in 2008 as the first school named after a Chandler youth. Her legacy reminds us of the good that can result when a community unites. Ken Hill grew up in Arkansas and joined the U.S. Air Force in 1962. His highly decorated military career took him to many places in the world, with assignments in Vietnam, Taiwan, South Korea, England, and Panama. While serving in the Air Force, he completed his bachelor's degree at the University of the State of New York. During his active military career, Ken and wife Sharon also managed a family, raising 3 children. In 1982, Chief Master Sergeant Hill was assigned to Williams Air Force Base east of Chandler, where he served as Assistant Chief of Base Administration. In 1990, Chief Hill retired from the Air Force and began his 2nd career. He took the job of Air Force Junior ROTC instructor at Chandler High School. The program was struggling at the time, but the chief implemented programs to instill pride in the cadets and improve recruitment. It wasn't long before the program began receiving exceptional ratings. In 1997, the superintendent of schools assigned the chief to Anderson Junior High as assistant principal. Here, he was responsible for athletics and student discipline. His likable personality and win-win attitude, combined with exceptional leadership and genuine care, brought improved success to students, parents, and teachers. Chief Hill retired in 2007, but remains an active volunteer in the school district, spending much time to help students attending the school that was named in his honor. The Chandler School District's naming tradition has not been solely limited to school buildings.